Yeah, yeah. The world is so small till it ain't. Yeah, I'm building up a wall till it break. She hate it when I call and it's late. I don't wanna keep you waiting. I hope.
Welcome back to another episode of Sit with Steve. We still need to work on the name. It's still crap. Sorry, Sam. But welcome to the third episode. Last episode was with Robin. It was really good. I really recommend go and check it out. Today we've got a really special guest, Neil, who we work with quite a lot on the management side. Years and years of experience in lettings. We're going to talk about lettings. We're going to talk about new strategies that people are making money in property in 2026 and how they compare to how people were doing property back in the day. We've got Louis. Introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm a sourcer at Short Stay UK. I've been dim sourcing for probably just about a year now with Steve on the side.
Yeah.
Come from a caravan to up to Swindon to source full time now. So from roofing to boofing.
Roofing in the booth, yeah.
Roofing in the booth.
From the roof to the booth. That's
the
true.
Roof to the booth.
Yeah. And then Neil, introduce yourself. What about you?
Hi, I'm Neil. I've been in sales and lettings for the past 25 years. Portfolio owner, portfolio seller. Got introduced into the world of service accommodation probably 6 or 7 years ago. Worked on the periphery of it for a little while until we sat down with Steve and others, and now it's a significant part of our business.
Now we're overly familiar with service accommodation. We now know it a bit too well. Which is good for people that want to know, because we've got all the answers really. We've probably been there and done it when it comes to most bad situations or good situations in SA. But you've been doing property for a long time.
Yeah.
Probably same amount of time that I've been on this planet. But where did it all start? How did you first get into property? Where did that switch?
Well, like a lot of people, got into property in the early 2000s, so I basically went through a divorce. It wasn't a big dramatic divorce. There was no children involved. It wasn't a huge amount of money involved, and I needed a way for us to sort of very amicably split, which we did. There was a property that we had, and we had two properties at the time, and I decided that instead of just selling the properties and splitting the proceeds, I would remortgage them, keep them on as rentals, and then pay out my ex-wife. From that, it was a very happy arrangement for both of us, and so we did that, and then I kind of became a landlord at that point.
Accidental landlord kind of thing?
Kind of accidental. I mean, it was intentional. It was a quick way to get the money from my ex, but it was at the same time, I kind of thought, let's keep the property on, let's grow it. And then at the same time, obviously, the property boom was in.
What year was this? It was 2008?
Probably about 2005.
2005.
Yeah, 2005.
Do you know, Louis, do you know what happened in 2008?
Wasn't there...
There was a massive crash.
The recession, was it?
Yeah. Where all the banks started, the properties were getting seized and everything. so 2005 it started to, that's when you were in it.
So around that sort of time, so I built up a portfolio of properties, along with some friends of mine. We sort of were buying them, and at that time you didn't have to be particularly smart or clever or even have lots of money to be able to buy property. The property market they were throwing properties at people. Was
this when you could literally sign a piece of paper to say you could afford this property?
Yeah, self-certification it was called.
Right, can you imagine that now?
Mate.
I've just gone through the process myself, right? And my nan sent me money on my birthday and they want to investigate her to anti-money laundering, right? Yeah. Which is crazy. So
the rules
back in the day, that's
rules have been
mental.
changed, and in fairness, rightly so. It was way too lax, and it obviously generated and created the sort of it didn't create the crash, but it certainly went a long way to making it a worse correction than it might.
So that
needed to have
probably
been.
was the reason to lead up. Everyone was just getting properties just like nothing.
Oh, the buy-to-let boom, yeah, every land, people were becoming landlords overnight, 2 or 3 properties.
But were people still like not sure on it? Because like it feels like nowadays, if you could just do that, I feel like every man and his dog would just be going doing that, signing up properties, renting them out.
Yeah.
Like, was it still like a bit unknown that property was like a really good way of making money, or was it still common?
Well, the government were encouraging it. They were encouraging people to use their pension money to buy property. I mean, they were actively telling people to do that. And so people were taking their pensions.
But then were they losing the properties though, when there was a recession and stuff like that?
Well, I mean, the recession, people were losing properties because everyone's over leveraged and paying too much, and leasehold properties in particular were difficult. The rental prices, there's so much rental on the market that it was much more competitive. So you had a lot fewer people wanting to rent than there were properties available to rent. So prices were going down from a rental perspective, or at least not going up very much. But the prices of property were interest rates were going up. So paying for your property was getting more and more expensive. And obviously it led to the crash in 2008, led by the American market, and then obviously followed into the UK. All those markets are linked anyway. So that all happened, and
so you got your property. Did you say you started building a portfolio from being able to just sign on properties? And so where are we now? Are we 2007ish or? Over those, so 2005, you had your first
probably
one.
about 2-3 years
of just building it.
My friend were just buying more units. They were throwing them at us, really, and we built up a portfolio of about 25 units.
Jeez.
In
a couple of years, that's mental.
25 properties in a couple of years,
and it was all deferred consideration stuff. So it was all gifted deposits.
Just like no money down.
No money down. In
just
fact,
racked up.
In
16
reality,
in a year.
it was no money down. You were actually getting extra money back out. I made a lot of money, but it wasn't real money. It was all leveraged money.
Yeah.
So it was like taking out absolutely loads of loans.
If you did like your net worth, it would be like, and added up all your loans compared to what was actually in the bank, it would probably be like, you're seriously like...
It was a crazy amount of money in reality, and everyone felt like they were living the high life, and it was never going to end. And like every good party, you're a little bit drunk and you just think this is always going to be amazing, and unfortunately, as everybody knows, it wasn't in the end.
It must go up.
So how badly did that affect you then when it kind of the recession came?
Well, I mean, I spent I had some pretty high monthly mortgage payments to make out of sort of dwindling rental income to offset against it. A problem with a lot of leasehold properties, flats in particular, is that there's management fees, there's ground rent,
all these additional costs.
There's all these additional costs.
This is why we're avoiding, when it comes to service accommodation. What do you think?
I mainly only look for 3-bed plus properties, really, because obviously all the extra costs for 1 and 2 beds, it just don't work out making a profit if you used to manage it yourself.
Well, the leasehold as well. There's always issues. It's not worth it.
Well, it's extra cost, which you don't wait. You should, of course, factor them in, and you should do your numbers properly. But when the momentum's growing and you're taking on more and more properties, and you're taking money out as you're buying these properties, and you've got a healthy bank balance, what you believe is a healthy bank balance, and this attitude that the good times will roll, then you're not really thinking about necessarily what you're taking. You think, I can take this one on. This one's got a balcony. That's really exciting.
And all these little things that you can sell yourself on anything like that. Do you know what I mean? When things are good, everything seems a lot. Rose tinted glasses. Do you know what I mean? Everything's great.
Yeah.
But only because I know you. What was you then? what was the beginning of the lettings side? Because that's what I think most people know you for now, is like as lettings.
Yeah, well, I mean, interestingly, I mean, I got into this whole industry in the sales side. So it was sales that I cut my teeth on, is what I learned. It's what, I mean, I guess ultimately that's, the sales side is more my nature. But the lettings was something that I never wanted to go into. When I first got into property and first started buying buy-to-let, we were giving all of our properties to an agent.
Yeah.
I quite fancied the agent at the time, and so it
Here's
wasn't
another
a
set of
problem
keys.
to sort of pop in again.
Yeah,
Hello,
Cheryl.
got another property. How are you? Yeah, that was a great catch up line. No wonder I didn't get anywhere. But
I got another one for you. All right. Sorry, just take the keys. Come on.
So we were giving it to an agent, and after a while, because I was working with some colleagues and others, other would-be landlords as well, then they were also buying property. I was helping them in that process. So I had a number of landlords that were buying property, and myself, and we were giving all of this property to one agent. They were more than happy to take it. Absolutely fine.
Piling on.
And for a while that was fine, until when we sat down and we looked at all the statements and we looked at all of the revenue that was coming in and all the
Money
fees
coming
that
out.
were going out, and I sort of thought, this is crazy. Why are we giving away all this money? It was a huge amount of money, and what seemed like a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
And I thought, I could do this like an idiot.
That's like the naive start to any business, isn't it? It's like, I can do this, it's fine. But you need that though, I think. Like, to start any business, I think you just need to not, like, even with service accommodation, like, I think if we knew how tough it actually is to run and manage properties, I don't think you'd weigh it up from the beginning and go, there's 2 years of just pure stress, no money, relationships tested, will I do that? And you're like, or just carry on my easy job. It's
obviously, the power of hindsight is a wonderful thing. I was knee deep waist deep in lettings when it finally dawned on me that there's a reason agents need to charge a fee, and why actually that fee isn't actually that high compared to what they do. In fact, arguably, even back then, the fee is low.
So how did you start? Did you just then stop giving keys to the agent and try and rent them yourself, or did you take all the keys back?
Well, I mean,
in one go.
Yeah, no, I had all the relationship. The agent had the relationship with me. I had the relationship with all of these landlords and obviously my properties as well. So it actually made sense for me to take them back. But what I ended up doing was I knew how to sell. I knew enough about property and mortgages, and through my own experience and through what I taught myself and learned through various sources, that to do all of that. But then I thought, to actually be able to do it on behalf of other people,
it's different because you got to deliver a service.
I felt like I needed to have more of a considered learning curve. So I actually joined. I actually applied for a job to become the sales manager at Martin & Co.
That's clever though, isn't it? That's a good way to do it.
So I took a job there. I was there for a year. I mean, I learned two things. And Martin & Co. is a franchise, and it's every owner is different. Every system is different. But I learned that firstly and foremost, I was not cut out for working for somebody else. The owner was lovely. I mean, he was a great guy. I really liked him, but I think that he pulled his hair out quite a few times, exasperated with me. I wanted to do things my way. He wanted me to do it the right way. And he wanted, and then there was Martin & Co. The group in general, and that was also quite a difficult relationship. And like any business that is successful, Martin & Co. is by any stretch a successful franchise. They were very focused on the money. And I, at that time, maybe naively, was much more focused on the people.
Yeah.
So like the tenants and the landlords. Having been a tenant myself and was also a landlord myself at the time. So it wasn't a very natural fit, but I did learn a lot from, shout out to Simon Blackman, franchise owner at the
Shout
time.
out Simon.
He, there was some good times with him and you know, God knows he didn't have an easy time of it with me, but I really, that was really the launch of my lettings, proper lettings career, if you want to call it that. But after a year, I think they were pretty much done with me, and I was kind of done with them. And Simon was very gracious towards me, and we parted in a good way, and it was in a friendly way. And then sort of essentially set up, took what I learned and set up on my own.
Well, was that when the beginning of Ashcocks, really?
Yeah, essentially.
How long ago was this?
2009.
Wow.
2009, and things were still okay for rental at that time. The market, and the reason it was okay was primarily because there was so many people out there doing it. There was a lot of people, and the sales guys, the sales agents, you big branches, they were primarily focused on sales.
Yeah.
So lettings was like this kind of side business that they were doing. They were focused on sales.
How different is that? Is lettings from now today to back then? What are some of the main things? Because you told me before, and I'm just like, I can't believe that's how it used to be done. Like there used to be like a box where all the cash deposits were kept and stuff like.
There was so much cash.
What were some of the main things that are different? Like
deposits. They were just handed over, often in cash, not always, but often. There were no deposit schemes. They just trusted you to give it back. There were no strong. There was a code of ethics with returning deposit, but there was no real legislation for it. And you know, obviously, we were always very diligent and very ethical, but you know, there was stories that you heard all the time.
Is that where that underlying grumbling of like people that are against deposits, even now, is all stemmed from? Is from those rogue days where people were just paying deposits and not getting them back or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
And that's also where. But I mean, it wasn't one sided. You know, there were tenants who basically you typically take a month's deposit, not more. You know, they would leave but not pay the last month's rent, and so that deposit would pay that last month's rent.
Yeah.
You know, and then if there were any dilapidations or problems at the property that you had no money and you didn't have a forwarding address necessarily, you know, or if you did have one, it wasn't necessarily real.
Yeah.
So you couldn't get, you know, so the landlord would still have to pay out to get his property back in good order. You know, that side of it did need tidying up. You know, the deposit legislation is a good thing.
What else? Was there anything else that is like
contracts were a lot easier.
Yeah.
You know, there was certainly contracts back then which were, you know, only maybe 2 or 3 pages of A4, whereas now they're like 25, 30 pages long. Legislation was way behind the curve.
That's massive nowadays.
The industry self-policed.
Wow.
And, you know, people are inherently greedy. You know, everyone's got their line, but you offer somebody enough money, or you ask them to you know, look another way, then people will do anything. I mean, it was important to us that we acted ethically and properly. We wanted to retain business and to retain our landlords.
Well,
there's so many stories.
I think that's probably why, because I know you and I know the landlords that you work with. I've spoken to the landlords, and so many of them have got such long-term relationships with you, and I think that's so important and so good, because
the difference between sales and lettings is that sales is, even if you've got a sale that rumbles on 6 months, you know, it might be a fairly intense relationship with your agent, but at that point of sale, that relationship, to be honest, comes to an end until the next point you buy or sell a house. With a letting agent, you know, you're in contact with them regularly.
Duration of
they're updating you. I
mean, and you know, and if you've got if you've got the time and the inclination and the social skills, you inevitably start building a relationship with that landlord. And many of them I've had since day one, back in 2005. I've carried them with me this whole time. Sometimes because of friendship, sometimes out of loyalty. Sometimes landlords just can't really be bothered to change agent. It just seems like a lot of effort. But often I'd like to think because the service and the relationship is what they're looking for.
Could you highlight one major highlight from running the business as a letting agent, and then one real sort of dark moment? Like a highlight dark moment.
Highlight dark moment.
I definitely would say that the highlight is the relationship with the landlords. Not every landlord is a good landlord. Not every landlord is nice, but the vast majority are hardworking people who have. I do feel very frustrated on behalf of landlords.
Yeah.
Because they've had a hard time in the press. They get a hard time by the tax office, by the government, by legislation. They're kind of put on this kind of in a position where they're vilified. They're kind of looked at as if they're like these evil landlords and the poor tenants. I think in my experience of all these years, almost every landlord that I've dealt with is by and large a kind, hardworking, fair person, and that was particularly evidenced during COVID. Many of our landlords gave our tenants discounts and reduced the rents because of the difficult time.
Well, there's such a bad stigma around landlords, and it's so unfair.
And that's absolutely not my experience of landlords on the whole. There's a few bad ones. There are, but they're not bad landlords as such. They're just not particularly nice people.
It
and translates into what
they can do whatever they do. Any business. It can be anything they do, and you think, they're not that nice of a person.
Yeah.
I think you do so well because of being a nice person. It's like we always say, being nice gets you so far.
Yeah, it gets you far. As long as you can obviously be polite and respectful, do you know what I mean? But a lot of people like that, and well, of course, it's just like if you're horrible on the phone or something, they're not going to be ringing you or wanting to speak to you again.
Yeah.
And I think me personally, getting agents and stuff on board, I've just kept a good relationship, and then even get to a point where I can sort of have like a laugh and stuff like that on the phone with these agents.
Now this is funny because you spend all your days ringing letting agents.
Yeah.
Neil's probably had. You must have had companies ring before.
Oh yeah.
Right. What do you think about what works for you when you're kind of bringing agents? And I want to see if it would have worked on Neil. What do you do? Like, how is it that you get agents on board? Because you seem to be able to get them on. I've tried for years and I couldn't get them on. You just managed to do it within a few months.
I don't know. I kept like a professional way about myself, but at the start I would sort of act like it sounds bad, but I'd act like a tenant going in under disguise. I'm like, oh hi, yeah. Oh, so have you got a few? Would it be possible to get a few dates and times? I'm just super interested in this property. It's really nice, actually. Yeah. They're like, oh yes, of course. And then they tell me the dates and times that they've got available. So now they've told me that
in their head they booked it in.
Yeah, they want to book me in. So they want to get someone in now. Their hopes are up. They're thinking, I can get someone to look at this now. So then after I've gone about it, who's staying at the property then? And I'm like, well, so basically, this is how it works. We accommodate contractors and working professionals, the odd NHS workers. But what I've had luck with is that I've already had something that I can work off with. With short stay, renting all these properties already. Yeah. I say we're already renting I think at the time it's about 80 properties. I'll tell them we're renting about 80 properties so far. With the early days, I sort of had to say listen, it'd be really good for you guys to give us a chance. And then even if they said no on that one, the persistence that I put on to go back again and go, right, I've seen this one. And what I always say at the end is if there's any other properties that landlords would probably be open to this, then would it be all right to bring up again?
I mean, the thing you've got to remember is that the agents get cold calls on this all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, all the time.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of people doing courses. There's a lot of people learning to be sources. A lot of people paying money to do, you know, all kinds of courses with scripts. You know, this script will never fail. This is the magic script that's always going to work. All of us agents, we've heard these scripts 100 times. We know these scripts, so we recognise you straight away.
Yeah.
What makes the difference is two things. If you're personable and friendly and got a bit of something about you that's not just somebody reading off a script, and you're persistent. Those two things are the key.
I don't think you've ever spoke to an agent without laughing on the phone.
Yeah, like we'll sort of, I tend to go, like, with my name is spelled Luey. And I know it's a little, but I'm like, oh, like, yeah, it's different.
But it's a little thing.
And it just, that's what
perfect.
sort of
that's golden.
gets me off part. Like, or when I'm doing when I'm spelling out my email, I'm like, yeah, Perry's Property Establishment. And I'm like, sorry, it's quite long. I should have thought of a quite short one there. I'm really sorry about that. And
Or is it? It's what's the full email? It's like
Perry's
like,
Property Establishment at gmail.com. You know what? At the time I thought, yeah, this sounds slassy. I'm gonna put that in, ding that in there.
It's like you literally your wrist is cramping up at the end of writing that down.
And you've wrote it and you're like, oh, there's a mistake. I gotta go back,
I set it
redo it.
all up, and I thought, you know what? Actually, now I'm thinking about it. Like, agents are going to be writing this down and stuff. I thought I should have just gone with PPI. I should PPE. Sorry, PPE. But anyway, it's a good thing to sort of.
But they don't. I mean, all that sort of stuff. They don't really care about. It's a lot more to do with your persistent. Not jovial, but it is that kind of friendly, happy. I mean, you know, agents are like every business. They spend their days trying to get more business, trying to do good service, trying to work in an environment that's not always particularly warm and friendly. You know, tenants with maintenance issues, properties with problems, landlords with problems. You know, it's mostly problem solving. So if someone rings up and they're like chatty, it's chatty Louis, here he is on the phone. Oh, it's Louis. Everybody's Louis on the phone.
I think that's what's like
he's
Richard
rung
James
again.
now.
We know we can't give him anything because we don't do companies, but he's on the phone again.
He's on the phone again.
And you get to know some of the people on there. You learn their names. You sort of say, oh, hi, Chloe, or, you know, whoever it might be. And that over time, it actually starts to really work because people are more inclined to want to give you something if they consider you more
familiar in a way
on the friend basis.
And I think I haven't got through Richard James yet. Shout out to Richard James though. They're good stuff, but I haven't got through to them yet. But eventually, I know I will. And because
we're coming for you, Richard James.
That was.
Whether you like it or not.
We have to rent from you guys. I've been code red listed, I've been told by the agents myself. And I was like, am I off that red list yet? Come on, Ellie, come on. I want to be off this red list already. And then,
but no, I mean, and that's the thing. You know, a lot of the larger agents, and Richard James is one of the larger agents in Swindon for sure. You know, a long trading history. They will have policies. You know, it's not necessarily the person on the phone that say, no, we don't want to do this. It's just that's what they've been told. They can't do it. But policies are like anything. They're open to being revised. And if we can, or if you can convince them
to change that.
I mean, they are missing out. I mean, there's a monumental opportunity now with companies, especially with all the changing legislation and all of this stuff. It is silly to miss out on that opportunity.
Well, what we offer is doing a light refurb on the property because that's what we have to do to bring the standard of the property up good enough for the guests. We're willing to furnish it so they ain't got to worry about that. Like, we're willing to cover most things. So it's like, it'd be silly for them not to, really. And they'll have a tenant in and then they'll have more.
Well, when did the penny drop for you? I want to know that. For rent to service accommodation.
This is the first stage of UConn.
Really. We had some property with some very friendly, very very open-minded landlords, and we were approached by a company. They're no longer they're no longer trading, this particular company. But we were approached by a company who wanted to run this building as serviced. And I didn't really know an awful lot about it, but as the letting agent, had this opportunity with this landlord. He'd just done a whole building. None of them were filled. It had only just been completed. And I think there was 15 or so flats in this building.
Wow.
Got approached by this company, and it was right place, right time, right offer. They said, we want to take, have you got anything that's suitable? I said, I got a block of 15 flats, brand new, just come to the market, and they said, oh, we'd be interested in all of them. And I was like,
Okay.
like every letting agent, cha-ching,
Yeah.
wow, this is great, I solved that problem in one go. And then they went on to explain what they did, and I'm fairly open-minded. I just went to the landlord and I said, look, this company have contacted me, this is what they want to do, this is what they want to pay, this is how they're going to look after it. Just literally gave them the information.
Yeah, relayed it properly.
The landlord, again, really good guy, well-known developer in the town, in Swindon, and really hard-working, real grafter. Has made a lot of money, and he's earned every penny of it.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, well let's give them a go, and it actually worked out very well. It was in the early days of SA from my perspective. It was almost 10 years ago when this
It's crazy.
when this kind of came about, and I never really looked back from that. That was a positive experience. So it was an alignment of lots of positive things. Good landlord. It was open-minded. A deal option on the table for me that was too good to just ignore.
Yeah.
The person that approached me was relatively nice.
Yeah. You had a good experience and it worked well.
Yeah, and then very quickly into it, we discovered that it was quite a good way of doing it. The downside from an agent, and this is something for sources to consider, or not sources, but for SA to consider, is that when an SA company takes a property, it takes it out of the marketplace. They tend to keep it for at least 3 years. In most cases, in my experience, longer than that.
Yeah.
So an agent, particularly in these times, the margins are super tight.
Yeah.
10, 12%. That's not a lot, really. It sounds like a lot.
It's not.
Landlords.
On the rent.
It's not a lot. It's just 12% of the rent. That's all you're making, and you're doing a heck of a lot for that.
Yeah.
And then you've got to charge supplementary things. So if that property is then coming up for relet in 18 months, then you get to relet it. You get to charge fees again.
Yeah.
But if you rent it to somebody who is going to look after it, is going to rent it consistently for 3, 5, possibly longer years, you start calculating the losses that you're going to make. You get your 12% every month, or your 10%, whatever you're charging, 8% on a deal like that, because it was a multi-property deal. And then you start adding it up and you're thinking, I'd be much better off if
Just
these
relet
people
it.
left in 18 months.
Relet it. Yeah.
So that's not so attractive to an agent. Now, the agent's task is to get the best possible deal for the landlord, but at the same time, the agent is also trying to balance,
Look after himself.
financially shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
But you don't also want to be charging a landlord needlessly when there's an option on the table.
Yeah.
But that's a real tricky balance to find.
Yeah.
I mean, what if there was a younger Neil in his early 20s who just opened his
So just a
Ashcock,
little bit younger then.
just a tiny bit, a couple of years ago. Young Neil opened Ashcock's, early 20s, got a fresh start at it. What advice would you give to that Neil to run your letting business?
Well, so obviously,
Oh, boy.
30 years or so later, the huge benefit to me is all the contacts and the networks and the opportunities and the markets that have come about from making that decision. Honestly, like any business owner, if you knew how much hard work and pain it was going to be to get to that point, you would seriously consider whether you would do it or not. If people going into lettings now, this government, well, the government for the last 10, 15 years, legislation, the attitude of tenants coming in now, it's a very different world It's a much harder way to make money, and it's a lot more grief. The traditional way of doing lettings is steady and consistent, but it's not an easy job to do.
No.
It's not. They're not good margins. You've got to have supplementary revenue streams coming in, whether you're selling insurance-based products or whether you're selling sort of some of the sort of additional services that you can do as an agent, whether you're charging for inspections as some agents do, and so on, things like that. You've got to look at the management fee alone is not enough.
Would you tell him that, like, you need to remember that, like, the relationship with your landlord is the most important thing? Or what would be like a couple of little tips that would just make it, help?
Yeah, so I would say be honest.
Yeah.
Be honest with your landlord, be honest with the tenants, manage their expectations. People come into this industry, you come in as a tenant, you've probably heard 30 negative stories from the press. You've probably got some people saying, oh yeah, the landlord's going to try and rip you off, or blah, 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 those sorts of things. Come in, have a frank conversation with the agent. So as an agent, you've got to be honest and transparent. These are the fees, this is what we charge, this is what we do, this is what you can expect. That doesn't help to be any different. And honestly, I think you need to be kind. I think you need to be kind. You don't want to be a pushover. You don't want to get walked over. You don't want to needlessly give an opportunity to somebody who's clearly going to fail.
Yeah.
Or but you need to be kind, because there's just so much rubbish out there. There's so much hardship. I think that lettings doesn't need to be another hurdle that you've got to get past.
Okay.
So,
and then I guess what does success look like now? What are the things that we're doing? I mean, I know we do this SA management business as well, but for the letting side of things, what does a successful lettings business look like in a few years' time for you? What is the goal?
Obviously, you've got to be financially viable.
Yeah.
We've been trading for over 16 years.
Yeah.
It's coming up 17 years, and we're still operating, paying our way, paying wages. You could argue that doing that alone in this environment is success of some kind.
Absolutely.
I think you need to lay out what it is you're really trying to achieve.
Yeah.
I've never wanted to be a large multi-branch agency. You just feel so impersonal. But I do feel like we're coming into our second wind in that respect. So I do feel there's opportunity everywhere. So in challenging markets, in particular, in circumstances which aren't ideal for landlords or for tenants, there's always opportunity.
Yeah.
We're absolutely not going to define ourselves as a disruptor, but we are looking for disruption so that we can find the solutions. That's how we pitch ourselves now. We've been in this industry for so long. I wouldn't say we've seen everything, but we have seen
a hell of a lot.
A heck of a lot, and learned a lot along the way, and we can offer solutions to people who are struggling to maybe sell a house or to get it rented, or to understand the legislation that's going on, or to know where they stand, or should they even be a landlord. So we can sort of step into that void, give them that personal service, and provide a service to enable them to not only get past this initial problem, but develop and extend and grow their portfolio and their revenue from it, if that's what they want to do.
And with your agent hat on, are you happy with the boom in rent to service accommodation? 2026 is going to be another year where there's not that much legislation, not that much regulation. People are still flocking in herds to learn about it. People are still doing it a lot. Is that something that you're happy about? And
rent to service accommodation has been very successful for us.
Yeah.
but it's important that you get a good partner, a professional partner. So obviously we work with Short Stay.
Yeah.
They're not the only service accommodation partner we have. There's 3 or 4 that we work with. Short Stay are the most prolific. I'll be honest. You guys have really really gone out there and attacked the market, and so that's all credit to you. But that partner needs to also have good management. It's got to have an ethical side. They want to look after the landlord as well as the guest. It's not just about making money. It's about looking after the property, looking after the neighbours.
We've given property back from that.
And it's very difficult. The agent, if we're the agent for the landlord, if we've got people ringing us up saying there's rubbish outside, or there was a party last night and blah blah blah, then we need to know that Short Stay are going to, or any service accommodation provider is going to deal with that quickly. Put those issues to bed so that we can assure the landlord that it's okay. And that's really important. There are lots of benefits to SA from our perspective. And there with some, not creative financing, but with some opportunities within the setup to offset the costs or the loss of income, that we would get from a long-term tenancy not coming back to the market. Then because we can do that, it's actually very good. The landlord gets a pristine property, well maintained, and with quick cleaners in every week, and with quick responses to problems. SA is definitely something which more and more landlords are getting into, and more landlords are considering, and I encourage it. But there does need to be some experience for the SA provider. They have to know what they're doing.
Got to earn their stripes and be.
You can't, somebody that comes straight off of a training course, they might be the best SA provider that ever lived, but without a track record,
they're nothing.
An agent, we need to make sure that our landlord's property is being looked after, our landlord's rental is being looked after, and that needs to be earned. Unfortunately,
it does.
So you can't just rock up and expect to get a property that day, because it just doesn't work that way. So that's why relationship with Louis, consistently ringing the agents, building that relationship, building that rapport, that goes a long, long way. Because people would much rather do business with a friend or someone they consider a friend than they would some random cold caller that's just reading a script.
That's it. I mean, all the agents, they've had good experiences now that you've brought on board. And they just ring you now.
And just say, listen, we've got this one available. Or I'll ring them up. And because I know agents can be busy, and they'll say, oh, actually, we've got this one available, like another 4-bed in this location. And just building that relationship just does go a long way. Just make sure you're kind and respectful, isn't it?
And make sure when you get your chance to make sure you prove it yourself. Like if the agent does give you a chance on a property, you make sure the rent's
late for that view.
The rent's paid on time.
The rent.
You've got to go over and above. If there's any shadow of a doubt, the slightest thing that you do wrong, possibly in the agent's head, they're just going, I knew it probably wasn't going to work out. And then that door is kind of more firmly closed after that. So you've really got to make it work.
That's the thing, innit? A lot of people, it's an agency, ain't it? It's not like just a normal landlord where you're just speaking to landlord one-on-one. They are the gatekeepers of all the properties. So it's like you've got...
Or definitely... In a lot of cases, they're the gatekeepers of good property.
Good. That's correct. They've got, because that has to be for a certain standard for them to let out. That's what I have found. I've gone on some viewings and there's like a landfill in the garden and mould in all the rooms. And I'm like, well, this is a waste of my time. But sometimes it has been where I've spoke to other landlords like that, and they've said, I've got a friend who's got another property actually. And then it has led to one thing to another, and it's got business out of that. But that's why, sometimes you could be wasting your time.
Well, the thing is, I mean, you can never really judge. You never really know when you meet somebody. A few years ago, we had a high street office, and we had like a little coffee shop at the front of it, and we thought that was a great idea, of coffee shop, office at the back.
Yeah.
I mean, I pretty much drank the profits in coffee during that time.
Yeah.
But we used to have a gentleman who used to come in. He was dressed really tattily. He shuffled in. He was quite elderly. He was perfectly nice. He always used to sit in the window. He used to have a coffee and sit there for a little while, and then he would leave. We didn't think that he was a tramp or anything, but we thought he, a pensioner on limited income, and he was just coming in for his coffee, and that was fine. That was nice. We didn't think any more of it until the day that he wandered to the back of the shop and came to the office and sat down. He said with a really quite a posh voice, I have a number of properties in the Swindon and surrounding areas, and I wondered if you could discuss with me, sort of your terms and your services. And he certainly was asset wealthy.
Yeah.
And we had quite a long-standing relationship with him in the end.
Wow.
Renting various properties
crazy.
with him, and he became a firm favourite in the office. He was really quite a character. But I often thought, all those weeks that I never even approached him or said anything to him, just because I'd already made an assumption about him.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's terrible, really. So you just never know. You might meet somebody, like you were saying, the house isn't suitable, the garden's, landfill and whatever else.
Yeah.
But they might know somebody, or they might actually have another couple of properties, and they're just testing you out, seeing what you're like. So everybody's worth talking to, because you just have no idea where it's going to lead.
Yeah. That's the amazing thing about it. The opportunity is just endless. It just doesn't stop, and I feel like that's what I've learned from being roofing to this now. It's like speaking to all these different people and in this sort of game is like crazy. Like there's so much business out there that you'd never even think of or imagine. Like it's
when
crazy.
you're stuck in that kind of mind frame of the job, it's hard to see what other opportunities there are.
Yeah.
It's just easy. We've got a couple of would you rather questions to close this out, to be honest.
Game of would you rather?
Game of would you rather.
Let's go.
Right, would you rather deal with a nightmare tenant or a nightmare buyer?
I'll let Neil answer this one.
You can have a little go. Go on, what do you reckon?
I don't know. Because a nightmare buyer, you're sitting there, I guess.
Buyer's hard because a lot of time is invested in getting a sale
Yeah,
through.
true.
And if it's a nightmare, it's tough. But a tenant
I guess
is long-term pain.
Yeah, of just constant.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nightmare tenant, I would say, is harder. Tenants in general are more hard work than buyers. So yeah.
Okay,
I would rather have
the buyer.
a nightmare buyer. Yeah.
Hello?
I would say, I don't know, maybe not the buyer, maybe a tenant, because, well, actually, if they're not paying rent, it's sort of.
Depends what a
maybe.
bad
It's a
tenant
very
is.
broad definition of
I'm
nightmare.
gonna go with Neil's.
Okay.
Tommy.
You can play it safe. Alright.
Neil won.
Okay. Would you rather start again with today's knowledge or keep what you have now and carry on?
Start again. Oh.
You've only just started.
Yeah,
So
what am I talking about?
God,
Waffling.
that is a tough one. It depends. Do I actually?
you lose it all.
Do I start again with my age as well? Do I go back to? the beginning?
Let me check the terms on that one.
Let me check the.
Let me check the small print.
small print on that.
No, looks like you keep your age.
I would carry on with what we have. Absolutely.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard won and hard retained, and that experience is everything.
That's a good answer. You can answer this one as well. Would you rather take big risks early or play it safe forever?
big risk early, all day long, dinging that bell. Big risk, ding, ding, ding. I am not, like, what I've learned now, I ain't playing nothing safe. That's how much I've got here.
I knew that was coming.
Sorry.
I knew it.
But now I've got a blessing.
Yeah.
Little son. So
Well, the risk paid off.
Yeah, it has. But yeah, big risk all the way. Like, I would have never thought to move all the way 2.5 hours away across the country to just
That's
be like,
a massive risk.
right, I'm coming, like, I'm not roofing no more. I'm literally just doing this. And because I was fairly new at it as well, I was just like, okay, dive deep in this one. And it's been crazy sometimes, but the best experience ever. I've met
mad.
amazing people, connected with loads of different types of people. Opportunity is just everyone else. A broader
Mindset, vision, everything.
That will never change.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, you picked the wrong crowd for this one.
Yeah, it's a big risk.
We're all big risks.
We're all big riskers. All right, we'll move on. Another one. Would you rather be right or be profitable?
Well, as my Disney smile will show you, I would rather be profitable.
Yes. What is the point in being right?
Yeah.
Where does that get you?
Yeah.
It just gets, yeah.
You're just in the
and
corner
then
like,
the person
okay.
that you're being right with doesn't ever believe you anyway.
I know.
So I'm married, so I know this really well. So,
Well, fair enough. Another good one. Would you rather work fewer hours with less control or more hours with full control?
Louis?
More hours full control.
Suppose you need to now because you got some legwork to do. You still got to build your sort of
Like where
your situation. Do you know what I mean?
in a way I feel like
You've got to take
9
control.
to 5 was less hours, less control.
Yeah.
What I'm doing now is more hours, more control. But I feel like I enjoy it because then I'm literally building whatever I want now. I'm creative, like with what I want to do. And whereas less hours, less control, you're literally limited in this little bubble. And that's what I've learned. Now I can just literally...
I think it will switch for you. If when you start having a bigger business to look after, I think you will learn to have to have less control.
Yeah.
Because the two, when you start taking on all the stress and just to try and control things...
For one person, that
I think
takes
that's
a lot,
when you
doesn't it?
start having aneurysms in your 40s. That's when you need to let it go a little bit. And if it means less money, it's means less money. If it's still making you money and you're not thinking about it, that's important.
That's true.
Yeah, and you know, you've got youth on your side, and young, you've got energy. Well, you've got a young baby, so I'm not sure how much energy you've got right now.
Right, he's still definitely got loads.
Well, yeah, he's really young at the moment, so I'm like, keep running till I can't.
Now is the time to really graft. Now is the time to
build.
put the hours in to build. I mean, for me, absolutely. I want to do less hours on things that I don't need to be doing, and delegate control to people that are smarter than me. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I feel like these ones are a bit...
On that
Says,
pause.
would you rather say no and sleep well or say yes and stress? It's like, who would say yes and stress?
Yes.
I mean, actually, to be fair, that is kind of what we do naturally. Because it is the way to get results. I mean, you have to say yes a lot of the time.
Yes,
You've got to
man.
put yourself into environments, into situations that is going to challenge you. I think it's very easy as you grow and maybe you've got less control in certain areas. It's very easy to sort of get all bubbled up and you actually need to be back out there, you know, sometimes in environments that are challenging or that you're not used to, because you've got to continue to grow. You've got to continue to push. If you're not pushing to develop your business, then who is doing it for you?
It's just dying.
You've just got people that are just, you know, repetitiously doing the same old thing, but you need to forge new paths. You built this business in the beginning. You did all the work in the beginning. You did all the hours. You worked like a dog. You sacrificed maybe a bit of a social life, maybe even a relationship.
Yeah.
Certainly, you sacrificed a lot of potential income that you might have got from another a paid role somewhere.
Yeah.
What did you make that sacrifice for? Just so that you could have a relatively...
True.
You know, that was what drove you, the excitement of where's the next sale
Yeah,
going to come from? Where's the next opportunity going to come from? And that still drives me now. It animates me. I get passionate about it because I think, you know, what is around the corner? You know, who is that next person I'm going to meet? What are they going to have on the table?
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, we're meeting some incredible people at the minute, and it's like eye-opening.
It's very, very, very exciting, and it's great because you can go through a period in any business where it just becomes a job.
Yeah.
Even though you started it's just a job. You know, you're just turning up, you're doing your thing, and then you're going home. But it's when it comes full circle and you feel like it's a startup.
Yeah, I know.
The energy's there, and you're working with people who are also motivated, and also excited. And are bringing
feel
things
unstoppable.
to the table.
It does feel unstoppable.
It's great.
Yeah.
And that sort of that energy and that speed, that ability to make a decision fast and then follow it through.
Yeah.
It gets results. And it creates and it opens opportunities. And it's you know, I had to say I am loving that. Absolutely loving it.
Well, I think that nicely wraps it up. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Louis, again for your wonderful insights.
Thank you. On the sideline. Throwing a little.
We're gonna get Louis. I'm gonna get Louis a little question sheet next time. So he just randomly comes in with Louis' question sheet.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hold on. If we just pause for a second. If you want to get information, answers from any of us, because we're actually all in the Discord that's been set up for free. We're all 20 odd years experience in lettings and more years in property. Louis going from caravan to full time in property and smashing it, and myself with helping build the service accommodation business and all the stuff and rent to rent. You would be an absolute fool to not join and take advantage of that. So make sure you click the link in the description, drop a like, subscribe as well. We really want to push it, but we're only going to push it if we can feel that people are watching, engaging. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
Off till it break. She hated when I call and it's late. I don't want to keep you waiting.